Hi everyone, I'm Luke Waterman, Water Resources Environmental Planner at Anglian Water. Just a few slides giving a bit of an overview and context to the environmental destination. Just to briefly touch on, or as a reminder for terminology here, the environmental destination are the reductions needed to ensure abstraction is sustainable both now and in the future by 2050. The environmental ambition is the rate at which reductions in abstraction will be delivered, so how quickly can we achieve this through time? And the overarching environmental ambition is considered a broad long-term vision for the environment in the region that considers water and land management holistically. So at this stage in the regional planning process, these kind of environmental considerations or the environmental destination is very much looking at water quantity, or is very much flow related at the moment. And this is to look at the current and future risk of deterioration in light of things like population growth, economic development and climate change. In terms of unsustainable abstraction, the River Basin Management Plan 2 highlighted that just 10% of surface water bodies in the Anglian River Basin district are of good ecological status, and many are failing as a result of poor flows and its impact on other classifying elements. By the end of the current water company planning period, or the end of the next river basin management planning period in 2027, there are aims to address unsustainable abstraction in the region, and this is very much reflected in the Environment Agency's reform of licensing strategy as a part of the water abstraction plan. And you can also see this in some of the no deterioration caps that water companies are putting in place this planning period as a result of WINEP. But given this, we collectively know that there are significant long-term challenges around reducing abstraction and finding new sources of supply. And as a result of that, there is a need to look above and beyond this initial baseline period in 25 or 27 and to proactively look at some of the long-term risk around deterioration of flow in water bodies, and start thinking about how we can capture and mitigate some of these risks as best as we can. Lastly, in the water resources planning guidance, there is an emphasis on improving the environment in relation to abstraction and flow pressures, and as a result, water companies this planning period do need to think about how they can best take this into consideration into their plans. As a result, through the regional plan, we have recently looked at some scenarios to date, and these have been formulated, and as a result, they look at different magnitudes or geographical distribution of license reductions by 2050. And I'll just walk you through the three of these scenarios. So starting with BAU plus or BAU, this aims to provide the same percentage of natural flows for the environment as targets that are set today in order to achieve what's called the FE, or the environmental flow indicator, and that is the minimum level of flow below natural flows that is required to support healthy ecology in a water body, and ultimately that supports objectives to achieve good ecological status. So with regards to BAU, the outcome is supporting good ecological status in all 950 water bodies looked at in the region, and those predominantly being rivers. The next one is enhanced, and this sees greater environmental protection for protected sites and other important sites such as chalk streams. And in this case, 257 of those water bodies will see greater, more stringent flow requirements above and beyond the FE to achieve a higher flow, and as a result, that means greater license reductions in this scenario. Lastly, the adapt scenario starts from the position of BAU or BAU plus and accepts that a full recovery to the FE might not be achievable in some of the heavily modified water bodies. And as a result, 123 of those highly modified water bodies see a recovery of 75% to the FE, so a 25% deficit there. And as a result, this scenario will see the less reductions than BAU. So what are some of the things to think about and consider when WRE has used these scenarios in regional planning? And these are just a selection of, I guess, high-level questions or trade-offs that are really important to think about in the context of these scenarios. So firstly, how many of the different scenarios trigger different types of infrastructure options to help find more water and solve deficits in the region? Are there enough options to resolve the combined impacts of growth and climate change, as well as to deliver these sustainability reductions? What are the scale of investments required to deliver each of the scenarios? What could be the impacts of these scenarios or reductions on other sectors, such as agriculture? And given the above, what is the appetite for WRE when looking at these trade-offs and challenges? So just a few really key points to remember. So beyond the kind of current regional planning process today and some of the conferences that you'll be attending in October or November, there will be further information and iteration of some of these scenarios, and they may differ from some of the preliminary information that you see today. So just a few things to remember. The current scenarios in their current form are just a first go at defining a set of high level or ballpark numbers, and it's very much a screening tool to look at water body flow requirements with a relatively coarse methodology. Have certainly been used to try and test sensitivity in the simulator and its impact on the regional water system, and as I guess already alluded to on the previous slide, help us explore some of the challenges associated with leaving this water in the environment. It's important to note that the scenarios are not a final set of numbers or aspirations that will go into the draft or regional plan, certainly in their current form. They're not really a consideration of wider environmental need. They're not representative of a wider set of multi-sector objectives or aspirations. There isn't currently any prioritization of the delivery of these reductions through time. And I guess last but not least, and I'm sure many will agree that these aren't overly stakeholder friendly or easy to communicate in their current form, and we certainly have a responsibility to think about how we can improve ways of communicating these scenarios. Lastly, just to highlight a few areas of further work in the programme, just in summary, there will be some more technical refinements to scenarios around the methodology, prioritisation through time, and some consolidation of stakeholder appetite. There does need to be some more bottom-up analysis and some more bottom-up engagement on these scenarios to incorporate perhaps some more local knowledge or justification for these, and certainly to think about things such as wetlands or estuarine sites or the impacts of flooding, really important things that aren't really included in the methodology at the moment, and is certainly a limitation of that methodology. We are looking to do a cost benefit analysis on these, and that's very much quantifying the value of leaving some of this water in the environment and bringing together some of the really key aspects of delivering this around the financial, environmental and social cost and benefits. Last but not least, we are delivering some local focus or catchment-based workshops And this is certainly to consider some of the more non-modelled areas of the regional planning process. And this might be things such as local needs and projects, and certainly the local needs and projects of other sectors, local environmental considerations, and broader natural capital and environmental enhancement aspirations, which are typically above and beyond deterioration and flow. And some of this work is very characteristic of the SCP process, which some of you might have seen and been a part of so far.